Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Noah here breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Monday, November the 25th. We got a big 11-game slate for Monday today. We're going to run through each position. I'll talk about some of the plays that stand out to me just looking at this slate the night before, the guys that I like the most at each position. As we go, we will build out a core of 5 plays. These are 5 players that I see the night before that I really have my eye on, that I feel like I'm going to have in most of my lineups come Monday. Obviously, that could change due to injury news and stuff. Like if we get news on Monday that some players out that wasn't expected to be out, that could definitely change the slate. But I'll just give you some of my thoughts as of now, looking at this slate on Sunday night. Just before we do get started, though, guys, I would appreciate it if you would drop a like down below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not yet. Follow me on Twitter as well. Link is down in the description at DFS by Noah. I just want to remind you guys as well that we are 1 week away from the launch of my Patreon page. I will be launching it next Monday, December the 1st, or I believe it's December the 2nd is next Monday. Very excited for the start of my Patreon page. Going to have a ton of NBA exclusive content over there, private videos. I'm going to write articles every day, Monday through Friday, that I'm going to have over on Patreon with more in-depth just analysis on each player that I like. We'll have an updated Core 5 over on Patreon as well, so very excited for the start of my Patreon page, which will be launching next Monday. Throughout the week, I'll keep you guys updated, and I'll definitely inform you with like pricing and stuff like that. It's going to be really, really cheap. I'll let you guys know like the final prices that I decide on, plus like what kind of or what exact content I'm going to have over on Patreon. But let's go ahead and start off at point guard for today. Talk through this 11-game slate. So with our stud options here, we got LeBron, Trae Young, Damian Lillard, Donovan Mitchell, CJ McCollum, just some of the guys at the top of the point guard position. Trae Young is someone that definitely stands out to me here. Just looking at this slate the night before, I like this matchup a lot for him at home against the Timberwolves. This game is going to be by far the best game to target on the slate. You got two of the fastest paced teams in the league, or at least top 10 in pace right now. Looking at pace so far this season, the Timberwolves do rank third. The Timberwolves have said, or Ryan Saunders has come out and said that he wants to play fast this season, and they have definitely done that. They rank third in pace. The Hawks were a team we saw to begin the season. They were sort of towards the bottom of the league in pace, but they're up to 12th. They've been playing a lot faster recently. So this game is a game we want to target, like I said. I mean, if you just look at totals right now, looking at totals the night before, this game has a 234 total with a 4-point spread, so it's projected to be a very high-scoring game. It's projected to be close as well, which is what we love to target for NBA DFS. Fast-paced game. Love this spot for Trae Young. He's going to be one of my favorite guys to target. Just looking at the studs on the slate the night before. I mean, you got Giannis in a tough matchup against the Jazz. LeBron in a tough matchup, I guess, against the Spurs. I don't really want to go to LeBron at 11,200. Karl-Anthony Towns, I like a ton here in this same game against the Hawks. He's 10,400, which feels way too cheap. I think Trae Young might come in somewhat low owned, but he's one of my favorite sort of tournament plays. I don't think he's going to be like an optimal cash play. Honestly, in cash, it probably makes like more sense to play Karl-Anthony Towns for just $600 more. I think Karl-Anthony Towns is a lot safer than Trae Young, but Trae Young we know gives you 60, 65 point upside. This is easily a game he could put up 60 to 65 DK points. AD, someone I like a lot as well. I think AD remains underpriced on DraftKings at 9,700. So just talking about the studs like 9K and above, I think the three guys I'm keying in on the most are Karl-Anthony Towns, Trae Young, and Anthony Davis. Love Trae Young at point guard on DraftKings. If we go over to Yahoo and look at the point guard position, LeBron is now point guard eligible on Yahoo. I know he's been like small forward and power forward recently. They switched him over to point guard. He's $51. Trae Young is $44. Then you have Lillard at $42. Love Trae Young on Yahoo as well at $44. Just looking at this slate the night before, he's one of my favorite plays. Love the matchup with the Timberwolves. Love this game environment. The Timberwolves versus point guards have not been good this season. I mean, Jeff Teague's never been a good defender. So I think this is easily a spot where we could see Trae Young put up another big game. He had a triple-double in his last game against the Raptors. Went for 64 DraftKings points, played 41 minutes, had 30, 10, and 10. We've seen Trae Young play huge minutes this season in competitive games, close to 40 minutes a night, kind of similar to like Bradley Beal. Like I said, love Trae Young at 9,800 today. One of my favorite plays on this slate. And then in this mid-range, I don't think there's like any core plays that stand out to me in the mid-range, like 8 to 7K range. We're going to talk about a guy that I think is severely underpriced on DraftKings that's probably going to be very popular today. Just looking at the 7K range, though, I think Spencer Dinwiddie against Cleveland stands out. I mean, he's not going to be a core play for me now that he's gotten priced up to 7,600 on DK. Plus, it's an 11-game slate. There are guys cheaper that I like a lot. But Dinwiddie's obviously going to benefit with Kyrie out, and he's one of the he sees one of the biggest boosts when Kyrie's off the floor. Kyrie's going to remain out, I believe, for at least the next 2 games. So Dinwiddie is a strong play at 7,600, but not a core play for me. Zach LaVine's coming off a monster game at 7,500. Honestly, if people are going to chase that monster game he had against the Hornets, 60 DraftKings points, I'll probably be looking elsewhere on the slate. If he's going to be somewhat popular, I'll definitely be looking elsewhere. I mean, I do like this game. Portland-Chicago should be a pretty fast-paced game. It does have one of the higher totals on this slate as well. Right now at 227.5 with a 1-point spread. So that's for sure going to be another game to target. But Zach LaVine's up to 7,500 on DraftKings. Probably be looking elsewhere on an 11-game slate. The guy that I really want to talk about on DraftKings is Malcolm Brogdon. I mean, Malcolm Brogdon, I have no idea why he's 6K. He's one of the easiest plays today on DraftKings, assuming he's not limited. This is his first game back from injury. He is expected to play today on Monday. We don't have any news as of Sunday night if he's going to be limited or not, but you can just see right here, after missing 3 straight games due to a sore back, Brogdon relayed that he feels 100% healthy. So I'm assuming he's not going to be limited at all. He's going to be able to play full minutes in a pace-up spot against the Grizzlies. Right now, the Grizzlies are one of the faster-paced teams in the league. They have been this season. They rank 6th in pace. Really good spot for Malcolm Brogdon here. The Grizzlies have really struggled to defend point guards. I love John Morant, but he is definitely not that good of a defender. He's going to struggle defensively. At this point in his career, he's just really not going to be a good defender, I feel like, throughout his career. So, great spot for Malcolm Brogdon. He is severely too cheap on DraftKings. This is a guy we were paying over 8K for to begin the season. His rates really haven't changed. I mean, he's had some rough games before he got hurt in that game against Houston, only putting up like 37, 34 DK points, but a lot of that had to do with blowout. Only 25 minutes against OKC due to blowout. 29 minutes against Orlando. I mean, that was kind of a tough matchup. Still gave you 37 DK points in 29 minutes. This is going to be a guy that gives you 35 to 45 DraftKings points most nights. In a pace-up spot against the Grizzlies, I mean, Malcolm Brogdon's going to be incredibly popular today, but it's really hard to get away from him on DraftKings at 6K. I don't see how he doesn't get like 6x value, and it's really hard to find guys that project for almost 6 to 7x value, but Brogdon definitely does. Now, if we go over to Yahoo, I think it's a different story. He's $35 over there, which is probably what he should be priced. He honestly might be still too cheap on Yahoo at $35, but not going to be a core play for me by any means at that price tag. Like $35 on Yahoo is kind of similar to like $7,500 on DraftKings, just doing the math in my head. So he's more appropriately priced over there. On DraftKings, where he's egregiously priced at 6K, Malcolm Brogdon, one of the easiest plays today. But then if we're looking below 6K, or 6K and below, I mean, I think Marcus Smart's someone that stands out. He's 6K. We do know that Kemba Walker is doubtful for today. Kemba Walker is unlikely to play after taking that pretty scary hit in that Denver game. It looks like he could have been like paralyzed. So he ran into his own defender with his head down. But thank God it's only like a few game absence. I mean, he's not going to play on Monday. Probably going to miss another game or two, but he should be returning soon. But with Kemba out of the lineup, we're going to see probably a lot of Marcus Smart at point guard. Honestly, wouldn't be surprised if they start Marcus Smart at point guard. I'm not sure if they'll do that. They'll probably start like Brad Wanamaker at point guard. But when Wanamaker's off the floor, we'll probably see Marcus Smart playing point guard a lot, having the ball in his hands. 6K on DraftKings in a matchup against the Kings. He's firmly in play. We can run the usage so far this season with Kemba off the floor. We can also take Gordon Hayward off the floor as well, since we know Gordon Hayward's going to be off. That's going to open up a ton of usage for other guys. We'll be able to see the exact numbers once I get it to pull up. I know we're not going to have much of a sample size, but we do have a 34.8% usage rate for Jason Tatum. I don't know. Okay, Taco Fall has a 72% usage rate in 3 minutes. That's kind of funny. But in 150 minutes with both Hayward and Walker off the floor, you got a 34.8% usage rate for Jason Tatum, 1.27 fantasy points per minute. Marcus Smart only a 16.6% usage rate, but obviously we know Marcus Smart's never going to be a high usage player. He still does average 0.92 fantasy points per minute. I think one that really stands out is Brad Wanamaker. 165 minutes with those guys off the floor, 16.9% usage rate, but averaging almost 1 fantasy point per minute. If Brad Wanamaker starts today, I imagine he'll probably play close to 30 minutes, if not more, and we will talk about him later on in the video. But other guys that should benefit with Hayward and Walker out today, Jaylen Brown should be a big beneficiary. He's got a 25.2% usage rate in 82 minutes with those guys off the floor. The guys we're going to want to target from the Celtics today are definitely Tatum, Smart, Jaylen Brown, and Brad Wanamaker, assuming he starts. So Smart makes a lot of sense at 6K. If we go over to Yahoo, though, I think that's where I have a lot more interest in him. He's at the shooting guard position, and he's only $19 over here. He didn't see a price bump for Kemba being out. He was $19 on the last slate. He's been $19 literally all season. Wow, that's crazy. Marcus Smart's price on Yahoo has literally not changed at all this season. He's been $19 the entire season, which is kind of funny. $19 on Yahoo, I like him a lot at the shooting guard spot. I think he's one of the stronger shooting guard options. Rarely do I play Marcus Smart, especially when he's popular, but this is just a totally different scenario. You got Kemba Walker off the floor. We're going to see a lot of Marcus Smart at point guard. Should have the ball in his hands a lot. I imagine he probably scores anywhere between like 30 to 35 fantasy points. And with his Yahoo price, that makes him a clear play. He's a pretty strong option on DraftKings as well, but obviously not as strong of an option given his price up to 6K, or the price bump up to 6K. But then below 6K, Draymond Green, someone I'm going to be keeping my eye on. He is questionable as we're heading into Monday. He's only 5,600 on DraftKings. He's point guard and small forward eligible, so I have a lot of interest in him if he's able to play today. We know he's going to benefit with Curry off the floor, with Clay off the floor, no KD, no Boogie. I mean, Draymond's going to have to do a lot for this team. He almost put up a triple-double the last game he played against Memphis. Really good matchup against OKC. I like the spot for Draymond. 5,600 is too cheap for him, especially on DraftKings where he has point guard and small forward eligibility. Have a lot of interest in Draymond if he's able to play today. But then looking for value at this position, DeAndre Bembry has really benefited lately from Cam Reddish being out. He did get priced up to 5,300 on DraftKings, so he's not like a smash play today, but the last two games he's played with Cam Reddish out, he's played 35 and 32 minutes. He started both games, 45 and 29 DraftKings points. This is obviously one of the premier games to target on the slate against Minnesota, or this Minnesota-Atlanta game. If Reddish is out, I probably project Bembry for about 32 minutes and about 30 DraftKings points, so at 5,300, he's firmly in play today. He has point guard and shooting guard eligibility on DraftKings. Dennis Schroeder as well at 5,200, but if Reddish is out, I think I'd rather play Bembry. But then if we're looking for value plays, there's not a lot of great value that I see just looking at this slate the night before. I don't think I'm really going to be going cheap at point guard. There is one guy I want to talk about, though, that we will talk about in a second, but other than him, there's not much I like. The one guy I do want to talk about is Brad Wanamaker, so I'm assuming he starts at point guard with Kemba Walker doubtful. That's not confirmed yet, but it seems likely that he would start. I mean, I need to pull up the rotation for the Celtics in their last game. I'm blanking out here. There we go. I should have had this pulled up already. I want to see whenever Kemba got hurt, who subbed in for him. I imagine it was Wanamaker, but we'll check real quick. Let's see if I can find Boston on here. Okay, go to game flow, go to Boston, Denver. Okay, so let's see, Kemba. So Kemba got hurt about towards the end of the second quarter, and it looks like, okay, so Jason Tatum was off the floor at that time. Semi Ojeleye was on the floor. They had, or when Kemba subbed in like towards the end of the second quarter. What didn't play very long before he got hurt. Jason Tatum was off the floor, and then Jason Tatum came in, so that doesn't really help me. That's not what I was looking for. But, I mean, Brad Wanamaker's been the backup point guard this season. Like, in that game against Denver, when Kemba came off the floor, whenever Kemba subbed out, Wanamaker subbed in for him. And then when Wanamaker subbed out, Kemba subbed in for Wanamaker. So, I mean, I'm assuming that Wanamaker starts for Kemba. He's dirt cheap on both sides. 4,300 on DraftKings. I like him a lot as a value play. If we go over to Yahoo, he's minimum salary over here, so he's going to be really hard to avoid on Yahoo if he starts. He's been a very productive player whenever he's gotten the minutes. I mean, if we just look at the last few games, he's played at least 26 minutes in 3 straight games, 28, 25, 21 fantasy points. This is a matchup I do like against the Kings. The Kings have never been that good of a defensive team. Corey Joseph's, I mean, he's a solid defender, but he's not like an elite defender by any means. If Wanamaker starts and plays about 30 minutes, which he should if he does start, he's going to make a lot of sense as a value play today. That's just going to have to be like news we wait and see on. If Wanamaker does not start and comes off the bench, I would definitely be less interested in him, especially on DraftKings where they priced him up to 4,300. Now on Yahoo, where he's still minimum salary, even if he does come off the bench, I think he's still a fine play on Yahoo, even at minimum salary coming off the bench. But I definitely want him starting if he's going to be like a core play for me today. I'm assuming he does start, though. That's just kind of news we'll have to wait and see on as we go into Monday, as we head into Monday. Let's talk about some shooting guard options now. Don't really see myself paying up at this position. There's not a ton of core plays I see at the top. I think Jimmy Butler would probably be my favorite option for 7,700. but I honestly don't think he's going to be a core play for me today. I like Brogdon a lot, and Brogdon you can play at shooting guard. You can play Wanamaker at shooting guard as well. Andrew Wiggins I like quite a bit in this matchup against the Hawks. For $100 more, I'd probably feel a bit better with Jimmy Butler against the Hornets, but Wiggins makes plenty of sense. We've seen the kind of season Andrew Wiggins has had. I mean, this dude's been awesome this year. Since he did get injured, he's sort of been definitely trended down since that injury. Just 34, 35 Draftkings points the last 2 games since coming back from injury. But this is the premier game to target, fast-paced game, should be high-scoring. Andrew Wiggins makes plenty of sense at 7,600. If you want to go to him, I'd probably be more targeting him in game stacks, though I don't think he'd be a optimal cash player or core play for me today. But just looking at other shooting guards, Evan Fournier is definitely going to benefit with with Aaron Gordon and Vucevic off the floor. He's 6,400 on DraftKings. They did a pretty good job of pricing him up. I think you can still target him even at 6,400. Last game with both Gordon and Vooch out, he did play 34 minutes and had 35 DraftKings points. That's honestly probably what I would project for him here. At 6,400, he's not a bad play by any means. He's definitely probably my favorite option between him, Burks, Richardson, Holiday, SGA. I'd take Fournier over those guys. Forgot to mention Jaylen Brown. I think Jaylen Brown makes a lot of sense, especially now that Kemba's going to be out for this game. He should see a pretty big boost in usage. I feel like we're definitely going to be targeting multiple Celtics today. A lot of them didn't get priced up to what they should be. I mean, Brown was 6,800 on the last slate, and he's 6,800 again today. He should see a boost with Kemba out, so he's a very strong option on DraftKings today at 6,800 shooting guard and small forward eligibility. I take back what I said about Fournier. I'd probably take Brown over Fournier today. Brown makes plenty of sense in that mid-range. You got Smart you can play as well at 6K, who I do like quite a bit. Then you have Bembry, who you can play, assuming Cam Reddish is out. He would be a strong option at 5,300. If we're looking for value at shooting guard, there's not much that I see besides Wanamaker that you can play at this position. So let's go ahead and talk about some small forwards. Move on to small forward. So you got Giannis, LeBron at the top of this position, and both guys are probably not going to be guys I have a ton of interest in today. There's just other studs I would rather target. I like Karl-Anthony Towns a lot. I like Trae Young a lot. I think AD's way too cheap. Giannis in a matchup against the Jazz doesn't feel like a guy I need to prioritize on an 11-game slate. Kind of same with LeBron against the Spurs. There's other studs I would rather go to that are cheaper today. Jonathan Isaac's been getting his price bumped on DraftKings. I was very high on him in that Saturday night game when both Vooch and Gordon were going to be out. He had a big game, played only 29 minutes, still put up 51 DraftKings points, had 25, 9, and 1 with 2 blocks and 4 steals. I mean, Jonathan Isaac's going to be a stud while Vooch and Gordon are both out. Him getting priced up to 7,900 on DraftKings doesn't make him a core play for me. But if we do go over to Yahoo, I think Isaac is still way too cheap over here. He's at small forward. He's $30. Same price as Tobias Harris. He's only $2 more than Jaylen Brown. I mean, you could argue that Jaylen Brown might be a better option, but honestly, I'd rather have Jonathan Isaac. This is a guy that I'm very high on. I think he's going to be a very good NBA player. He was a beast when he was at Florida State. I'm a pretty big Florida State fan. I know how good he was when he was at FSU. He's finally got the opportunity now with Vooch and Gordon out, and he's, at least in that first game, I mean, he showed what he can do, putting up nearly a 25 and 10 double-double with the defensive stats. Isaac's always really good, defensive-wise, getting the blocks and getting the steals, and that's very valuable on Yahoo since you do get 3 points for blocks and steals. So love Isaac over there at $30. You can play him on DraftKings as well, but don't think he's going to be as much of a core play. But now other small forwards we could target. You got the Celtics guys, Tatum and Brown, 69, 6,800. Choosing between one of those two guys, I'd probably side with Tatum for just $100 more, but honestly, I think it's fine to play both guys. You can play Brown at shooting guard and play Tatum at small forward, or Brown at small forward and Tatum at power forward. You got a lot of flexibility with how you roster those Celtics guys today, and I definitely think we're going to be targeting them since they're pretty thin and since 2 of their higher usage players are now off the floor. So Tatum and Brown make a lot of sense at small forward. I still think Jabari Parker's too cheap. I mean, he's 6,300 on DraftKings. He's really cheap on Yahoo as well. This is going to be one of the better games to target on the slate against Minnesota, this fast-paced, high-scoring game. So I definitely like Jabari Parker at 6,300. I think he's firmly in play in that mid-range. I mentioned Draymond Green earlier in the video. I like him a lot if he plays today. 5,600 against OKC. He has small forward eligibility. But then if we're looking 5K and below for value at this position, I mean, there's not much value that I see. Kuzma's really cheap, but Kuzma hasn't been doing much off the bench for the Lakers recently. Honestly, there's just better value on the slate. I don't think I really need to go to Kuzma. I did play him on it was a couple slates ago. I think he finished with like 17 DraftKings points. He was dirt cheap on that slate. I mean, Kuzma's just like not going to be a guy that I feel like I ever have to roster. He's never going to be someone that projects very well. When you're playing alongside Anthony Davis and LeBron James, I mean, you're not going to see much usage. You're not going to touch the ball much. Like, I'd probably project him for 28 minutes and 20 fantasy points and 4,400. I could definitely look elsewhere on this slate, especially with 11 games. So let's go ahead and move over to power forward now. Definitely want to talk about Anthony Davis here. So AD is not going to be a core play for me on DraftKings. He's not going to be included in my 5, but if I'm playing multiple lineups on DraftKings, I definitely want exposure to Anthony Davis. I just think he's too cheap at 9,700. This is a guy that gives you 60, 70 point upside every time he steps on the floor. He put up 48 DraftKings points in 36 minutes earlier this season against the Spurs. I mean, it wasn't the best game from AD, but still, 9,700 is too cheap. I mean, this is one of the highest upside players in fantasy, even playing alongside LeBron. He's playing huge minutes. He's taking a ton of shots. Him and LeBron are soaking up all the usage for the Lakers. So I really like AD at power forward. If you can pay up, he's my favorite option. I'd rather save the salary and play him over Giannis. I'd rather play him over like Siakam and Sabonis as well. Love AD at 9,700. You can play Isaac at power forward, who I talked about earlier. I think is a strong option. Kevin Love's going to be a big injury we need to watch heading into Monday. He is questionable as of Sunday night. If he plays, I mean, I really like this matchup for him against Brooklyn. I know he's been really cheap on Yahoo the last few days. I think he's still really cheap on Yahoo at $30. Kevin Love, I would have a lot of interest in today if he's able to play, especially on Yahoo at $30. On DraftKings at 7,800, he's also in play, but don't think he's going to be a core option for me. That's an injury we're going to have to watch though, because if he's out, that's going to open up Tristan Thompson as a much stronger option. That's going to open up Larry Nance as sort of a like mid-tier value. Going to have to keep an eye on that Kevin Love news. You got Jabari Parker at power forward, who I talked about. I do like quite a bit. You want to play him at this position. Larry Nance is 5,700 on DraftKings, which honestly still might be too cheap for a matchup against Brooklyn if Kevin Love is out today. Very likely he starts at the 4 with Love out. He'll play probably 34 to 36 minutes, probably score 32 to 34 DraftKings points. Brooklyn, we know, has struggled against bigs this season, so definitely like Larry Nance. Power forward and center eligible on DraftKings makes him very appealing, assuming Kevin Love is out. Other power forwards, really not much that stands out to me, like in the 5K range. Looking under 5K for value plays, really not much value that stands out either, just looking at this slate the night before. I think power forward is probably a position I'm going to be playing some of the guys I've already talked about that have power forward eligibility. Like, you can play Jason Tatum here. You can pay up for AD. I think there's other guys like Jonathan Isaac you could play here. Kevin Love I'll have some interest in if he's able to play. Jabari Parker, 6,300 I talked about. I like quite a bit. Larry Nance, if Kevin Love is out, you could look to. So that's kind of where I'm looking to for power forward. Now, running through center real quick, you got AD center eligible. You got Karl-Anthony Towns at the top of this position as well. I definitely like Karl-Anthony Towns today at 10,400. He is one of my favorite studs to pay up for, along with Trae Young and along with Anthony Davis. Now, I'm going to have him behind Trae Young because Trae Young's just a guy that I have a lot of conviction on today. I'm very high on him, and Trae Young's never a guy that I ever really play. I think I've only played Trae Young like twice or maybe 3 times this season, at least in my main lineup. So I have a lot of interest in Young. I do prefer him over Towns, but I'm going to have a lot of interest in Towns as well. And if we do get enough value on the slate to where I can fit Towns and Young together, I will for sure be trying to do that. But there are some very strong mid-range options at center that I do want to talk about. Andre Drummond, I mean, still feels a little bit too cheap, but with Blake back, I mean, he's not going to be a core play for me at 8,700, but he still does feel too cheap. Kind of Joel Embiid as well. 8,800 feels a little bit too cheap, but neither of those guys are going to be core plays for me today. Rudy Gobert is an injury I forgot to talk about. He is questionable heading into Monday. That's a big one to watch. I'm not going to have much interest in him if he plays at 8,600. There's just other guys I would rather go to, but if he is out, that could open up some value at center with Tony Bradley, who's still really cheap on DK. But the few guys I want to talk about in this mid-range, first off, Bam Adebayo. I love him today, 7,100 on DraftKings. He's pretty reasonably priced on Yahoo as well. At the center position, he is $31 over here. So this is a matchup that I've been targeting all season. Centers against the Hornets. The Hornets have been one of the worst teams defensively against centers this season. Allowed like top 5 in fantasy points, or their top 5 in fantasy points allowed to centers. Bam Adebayo is one of the most productive centers in the league. I mean, this is a guy that gives you double-double upside every time he steps on the floor. We've seen him pick up assists this season as well. He had 6 assists in that game against the Bulls. I mean, he's had games with 5, 6 assists. I wouldn't say he has triple-double upside, but the fact that he's getting 5 to 6 assists in some games, at least there's potential for it. So, I mean, this is just such a good spot for Adebayo. He crushed against the Bulls, and that was a great spot for him. The Bulls have been one of the worst defensive teams versus centers, one of the worst rebounding teams. You got 50 DraftKings points in 33 minutes in that game from Adebayo. If this game stays competitive against the Hornets, which it should, I'm not sure what the spread is in this game right now. Let me check real quick. So this game has let's see if I can find this game. It's not showing. I don't know. Oh, there it is. So it's got a 215 total with a 10.5 point spread. So a little bit wider than I thought it would be, but still 10.5 point spread. Adebayo should probably play his full minutes, which is 33 to 34 minutes. If he gets 33 to 34 minutes against this Hornets front court, could easily go for 45, 50 DraftKings points. I mean, Adebayo has a ton of upside in this matchup. He's too cheap given the matchup. $7,100 on DK, $31 on Yahoo. Love Bam Adebayo today at the center position. And then another center option I want to talk about is Hassan Whiteside. So Whiteside's probable heading into Monday. He's expected to play. And this is a smash spot for him against the Bulls. I talked about it with Adebayo, how he crushed against the Bulls. I mean, this Bulls team has been one of the worst defensive teams versus centers this season. This season, they've been one of the worst rebounding teams. We know how good Whiteside is on the glass. I mean, this is a guy that gives you double-double upside every time he steps on the floor. Very similar to Bam Adebayo. We've seen him go for 17 and 19, 21 and 12, 10 and 15. I mean, this is easily a game where Whiteside could go for 20 and 15, put up 45, 50 DraftKings points. 6,100 for Whiteside in this matchup is just way, way too cheap. He's probably going to play about 30 minutes if this game is competitive, and we know how productive of a player Whiteside is. Plus, when you factor in the matchup, if he gets 30 minutes, I'd have to project him for probably 40 DraftKings points, if not more. 6,100 for Whiteside. Another guy kind of similar to Malcolm Brogdon, like just one of the easiest plays on the slate. Don't know how you get away from him. But let's talk about some other centers real quick before we end the video. So Larry Nance, I've talked about multiple times in this video. He will be a strong option if Kevin Love is out. You can play him at power forward as well, which makes him very appealing on DraftKings. Forgot to talk about Jaren Jackson Jr. at power forward, but he's a pretty strong option at 5,400. As long as he can stay out of foul trouble and he gets the minutes, I mean, he's going to pay off that price tag most nights. So he's a guy you could look to at center, or if you wanted to play him at center, but I'd probably more likely to play him at power forward. 5K and below, though, for center value plays. I mean, there's not much value that I see at this position. You do have the Orlando bigs with Vucevic out. You got Birch, who started last game. Wasn't very productive. That guy kind of killed my lineups last game. I mean, he still played 27 minutes, but only had 9 DraftKings points in 27 minutes. I imagine he's going to start again. I mean, he started last game and saw 27 minutes. Mo Bamba, though, was very productive off the bench. I believe Bamba played 21 minutes. Yeah, him and Birch split the center minutes. You got 21 minutes from Bamba. He put up 22 DraftKings points in those 21 minutes. He was much more productive than Birch. It honestly wouldn't surprise me if they decide to start Bamba over Birch, especially given the matchup against Blake Griffin and Andre Drummond. So that's some news we'll have to kind of wait and see on. I'm assuming Birch starts, but it wouldn't surprise me if they decide to start Bamba over him. If Bamba does start, I mean, 4,400 for him, he would become a really good value. Even if Birch starts again, I don't really want to go to him on DraftKings. Like, he was power forward eligible on the last slate, I believe, and now they took away his power forward eligibility. You can only play him at center, which kind of sucks. You do have Tony Bradley, who I forgot to talk about. Tony Bradley for 4K would be a pretty strong value play today if Rudy Gobert is out. Rudy Gobert did sit out their last game against the Pelicans. You got 22 minutes from Tony Bradley in that game. He did start for Rudy Gobert, put up 26 DraftKings points in 22 minutes. He was very productive. I mean, 4K for Bradley still might be a little bit too cheap. Even if he's only going to play about mid-20s in minutes, he's a very productive player when he does get the minutes. But I think that's it for center, guys. Just in terms of value plays, I think we pretty much covered everything. So hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. Hopefully it did help you. If you enjoyed, make sure you drop a like down below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not yet. Be sure to follow me on Twitter as well. Link is down in the description at DFS by Noah. You can give me a follow over on Twitter if you haven't yet. And like I said at the beginning of the video, guys, my Patreon page will be launching next Monday in the beginning of December 2nd, which is next Monday. I'm going to have a ton of NBA content over there, a lot of premium content. I'm also going to have NFL stuff over there. Going to have very cheap packages available for like all my private articles. You'll be able to get access to all my private articles, private videos, updated core plays. I'll have a lot of updated content over on Patreon. So definitely would appreciate it if you guys would check that out once it does launch next Monday. But hopefully you enjoyed the video, guys. I appreciate you watching. We'll see you in the next one. Good luck tonight. Peace.